Pig Trail Nation. Mike, appreciate your time. Hope you had a good weekend. It's your last, I don't know if you want to call it free weekend, but maybe that is the truth. How are you?
I'm good. I had Saturday off. I started watching. They weren't great games, but I started 11 o'clock and was still watching Vanderbilt in Hawaii late at night. Got a chance to watch Barry Lunny Jr.'s debut as the offensive coordinator at Illinois. So it was a good day.
Yeah, and you had your eyes on Northwestern Nebraska. That game turned pretty quickly.
Oh,
what was your opinion on the? Everyone's got an opinion on the onside kick, but usually it's like, all right, if the onside kick worked, it's a great call. If it doesn't, then you're a bonehead. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, they had some Big Ten studio guys, analyzing that, and I thought one of them made a good point. Generally, the kicker is supposed to watch what the guys on the front line do, and you kick that onside kick when they're peeling back to block maybe a little too quickly. And he pointed out that they look like a bunch of infielders waiting for, a ground ball. They were ready. So maybe it was just the kicker not recognizing that wasn't a good thing to do, but it did turn the game around completely.
I mean, you really got to blame the Nebraska defense, I think, more than anything else. I used to picture Nebraska Cornhuskers football as 17-10 final scores. Now, they ran the ball a lot and controlled the clock, but they had great defenses too. And it's like, if you're looking to instill what a program has been about throughout its entire lifetime, or at least the good years, Scott Frost has not done that at all. Sam Pittman, on the other hand, kind of has. He's made Arkansas a physical team, and he's done it in some ways with many of the same players that he inherited. So, I mean, are you surprised at the lack of success at Nebraska under Scott Frost?
Well, I mean, there were all kinds of predictions. This guy was going to be the next great coach, the next Saban, all this stuff was going to happen. Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, Nebraska is an amazing place from a fan standpoint. I mean, they've had these disappointing seasons, and they still fill their stadium up. All those people went over to Ireland, and they just watched their team lay an egg in the season opener. I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy for them because Arkansas went through that bad period, in the last 2 years under Bielema and the 2 years, under Chad Morris. So you feel bad for them. I don't know what it's going to take to get them out of this because it's not something that they're used to, and yet it hasn't dropped their attendance off much. They still come to games, still hope they're going to turn it around.
Yeah, but they come and they boo instead of cheer quite often. I want to get you. I want to transport you to a year ago because in this week leading up to the opener in Sam Pittman's third year, we just I don't want to say take it for granted. There's an expectation now because you saw it last year that Arkansas is going to be physical, that they're going to try to and probably in many cases will control the line of scrimmage, that they're a much more physical team than they were in any of the previous, 4, 5, 6 iterations of Arkansas football. But maybe we didn't expect that last year. Was that your expectation last year? And do you go into this season with the same thought that I have right now, that you just expect this is going to be a physical football team and that's the way they're going to win games?
Well, you expect it because, for one thing, I watched what Sam Pittman did when he was the offensive line coach here. They got, each year he was here, it was more how can you play bully ball? Can you push people around? And, that's what he wants to do here. It's not that they're not going to throw the ball. But you look at the fact that 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen this year have a combined 10 years of starting experience. That's unbelievable. Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever seen that kind of experience coming back in a single season. You only have one guy out there that hasn't started before. You got 2 guys that have started 3 straight years. You've got 2 more that have started 2. They're a little beat up right now. And today's practice, I'm waiting obviously later today to find out the results of that because, there are some people they're still looking at, hoping they're back. Brady Latham in particular, who I think missed most of last week. But I think Sam said on Thursday he thought all of these injuries were minor and everybody would be there. But, yeah, you expect them to be physical, and I think they will use that physicality more this year than they did last year because they have more of it.
And I think the idea, too, is that if Brady is hurt, you're going to stick Tykees Crawford into that position, and you might not lose anything. In fact, you might get a little bit more physical, too. Is this the thing that if you're going to hang your hat on one thing about Arkansas football this year, is it offensive line play or is it something else?
Well, it is, but I'm looking based on what I've seen, and this is the surprise of the camp. I've seen this passing game do some things I wasn't sure they could do. I mean, when we went into camp, all of us are thinking, okay, you got a quarterback that basically has been throwing to one guy most of last year. That one guy's gone. What's it going to be like now? And when I've watched these, and I know that secondary is better. I know there's talent there. But just over and over and over again in these 7-on-7 drills that we've been able to watch, you're seeing receivers make plays and beat these guys, go up, make an unbelievable catch. The throws have been good, and the catches have been good. So I think this team will throw the ball well, too, and that should make this offense extremely effective. Anytime you can line up and run when you have to, but throw when you have to, that's a hard team to stop.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mike, on the other side, I mean, we've talked about everything under the sun when it comes to Arkansas. Now that we're finally at game week, we get to talk about the opponent, kind of the matchups. Is there anything that kind of jumps off the page when you look at Cincinnati as a potential worrisome spot for Arkansas where they might match up a little bit better?
Well, there's some unknowns there. I mean, they lost 9 guys in the NFL draft. They had their quarterback and their 2 cornerbacks were great players, and they're not there. So you sit there and you say they can't be what they were. But then you look at the history of Fickle at that program, and in 4 seasons they've lost 7 games. That's less than 2 losses a season. There's consistency there. And they do have a really talented backup quarterback who's back this year. I think he'll win the job, the younger of the 2. And he's a run-pass guy, so he will challenge Arkansas's defense. But I got to believe when you lose that kind of talent on the other side of the ball, I mean, their defense was a big part of what they did. So I'll be surprised if Arkansas does not take advantage of that. But by the same token, this is a program that's had consistency. And you say to yourself, well, they're not just suddenly going to fall apart because they lost some great players last year.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of bring it all back together, I mean, from where we started the conversation to now, it feels like Luke Fickell is about as high up on a lot of coaching boards as Scott Frost was during his time at Central Florida. Do you think that Luke, kind of staying at Cincy, even though I think he's probably been up for a few jobs over the last few years, has been a good idea for him instead of, taking the first job that he got like Scott Frost did?
Well, I don't know, but I like coaches that do that. You don't see it a lot. And I understand the natural tendency, okay, I've done this, I'm going to move up to this place, I'm going over here. But a lot of times it's a mistake. And, I'm probably silly in this regard, but I'm a sentimental guy when it comes to football. I like the idea of you're at a program, you stay there, you bond with their fans, you bond with the people at that school. I think Hunter Yurachek is kind of trying to play off of that right now, and I don't know how successful he's going to be. Somebody sent in a question to us this week, is, okay, he's been able to come up with the raises to keep some of the revenue-producing coaches here, but what about Deifel and some of those? When you're having to come up with a lot of money with these non-revenue-producing sports, can you keep them here? And I don't know what it would take in revenue to keep your soccer coach who's doing a really good job or whatever. But I do think he's playing off of this loyalty aspect, where you have all these coaches showing up and pulling for each other. And it may sound hokey, but I just like that sort of thing at any school. I think, one of the reasons I never decided to try and move up to a regional job or a national job where you cover a conference or the whole country in a sport is because I like the idea of covering one team and being around those fans and those people, because it's just the way I am. I guess I'm a guy that just likes, I've stayed here for all these years. So I understand what he's doing there, and I kind of hope he stays there.
Well, you're not a scratch the surface kind of a guy, Mike, not as a journalist, and I don't think as a person either, and I think, what Hunter does here is he's playing to the sentimentality of those coaches in that case. And I think he's done the same thing with Razorback fans with the whole, one Razorback thing. But, none of that will matter unless you win, right? All the love between these coaches, all the other coaches being on sidelines of football games and in the outfield of baseball games and courtside for basketball games, this is all a thing because the teams are winning.
Absolutely.
That's top of the list. That's the only thing that really comes to matter. They can be friends and get along and respect each other's programs, but if they're not winning, it doesn't matter.
Well, absolutely. And I wouldn't dare suggest that Juracek hired all of these coaches and is responsible for all of them. But he does seem to know how to hire coaches. And as he continues to do this, now the real question, I got another question this week from a fan who says, how long does he stay? I don't know. I'm not him. I don't know people that know him real well. I don't know if there's a job out there that he has in mind where, hey, if I ever got offered that AD job, I'd go there in a heartbeat. I don't know. But I just know Razorback fans like what's happening right now, and they kind of have their fingers crossed that it just stays this way. I think they've paid their dues. They've suffered. And now it's time for them to, having gone through that, maybe be happy again consistently. I would like that for sure. It's easier to do your job when that happens.
Yeah. Well, there's peace. There's consistency. There's contrast what you got going on at Arkansas, where it's holding hands and kumbaya, and to what's happening in Nebraska for a case, where you don't expect the coach to maybe even make it through October, or Auburn in your own league, in your own division, where the athletic director is stepping away just before football season starts. So, if you're an Auburn fan, I guess you just kind of get used to this kind of lack of a floor more than anything, because it feels like the bottom just falls out there.
Yeah, that place is a mess. That goes back 15, 20, 25 years. They've always had chaos there. They fired Tom Tuberville, and he beat Alabama like 7 or 8 years in a row, which is supposed to be what you do to keep your job there. They fired, I think, 3 coaches, 2 of whom won national championships, and the other one would have won one. It's just the way the BCS worked that year. They didn't get a chance to play in the championship game, but they were undefeated, and they fired all of those guys. So it's a crazy place.
That's wild. That's wild to think about that, man. All right. I'm not going to ask you for predictions on games, but what's your feeling on what you see Saturday against Cincinnati?
If Arkansas wins this game, I think they will win it with offense. I'm not saying the defense won't be good, but I think a lot of points will be scored in this game. And I see it maybe low 30s for the winning team, high 20s for the other team, something like that. I don't think it's going to be a track meet, but I really believe in Arkansas's ability to score points this year. And it could be more than that. I don't know. Some of this is you don't know how good their defense is because they lost so many players off of it. But that's what I'm looking for. That's what I think I would see. But I always tell people one of the reasons that I like all of sports, but in particular football, is because it's so damn unpredictable. You come in with all these things you think when a game starts, and 15 minutes into it, you're going, what the heck is this? Wow. And I like that. I like being surprised.
And no more unpredictable game than like the first week of the season, and it's a top 20 matchup, and you're just not exactly sure what you're going to see. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember the year Arkansas opened the season at Auburn, and they sent me there for a whole week, and you're trying to process all of that. And then being there that night and watching that game unfold, and it was a good game in the first half, but predictably, Arkansas wilted in the second half because of what? Because they're not used to that heat and humidity in Auburn, Alabama. Fayetteville, Arkansas is not Auburn, Alabama that time of year, season opener. So it was a little bit unpredictable, but on the other hand, in the end, it made sense what happened.
Yeah, it certainly did. Well, it looks like we're at the end of this segment. Mike, appreciate your time. I know you got other stuff happening, and always appreciate you coming on the air with us. Thanks for your time and your thoughts.
See you guys.
Appreciate it, Mike.
You got it. Mike Irwin, Pig Trail Nation. Looking at Saturday, you're looking at 90 degrees high, so maybe a kickoff temperature 2:30 in the afternoon of about 90 degrees. Not bad, but it will be a little bit warm at kickoff at Donald W. Reynolds Stadium. Hey, if you're not at the game, great place to watch the Hogs on TV is Joe's Grill and Cantina in Fort Smith, home of the half-price apps and taps during every televised Razorback game. TVs are all around the restaurant, so you'll have a front row seat. Enjoy your favorite apps and beers that are all half-price during the games. 3400 South 74th in Fort Smith, across from Harps, Tuesday through Saturday, Joe's Grill and Cantina. 877-377-6963 is the number for halftime. We are right back.
Online is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join today and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50 to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. That's BELIEVE, BLEAV 50. BetOnline, where the game starts.